San Francisco. Hey.
Hey.
Hey, Norm, what are you doing here?
Fancy meeting you.
That's so funny. Wow. Wearing my red shoes just for this event. We're going over to meet with Hemant Taneja, a good friend of mine, from General Catalyst, one of the premier VCs in the world. Very, very successful backer of some of the biggest brand names in tech.
And
in here.
why? You just gonna go hang out, or what's the purpose?
42 questions. 42 questions. The answer to the life, the universe, and everything about VC. Hemant Taneja, how are you?
Hi, Sean.
Hey,
Welcome.
good to see you.
Good to see you.
Thank you. Thanks for taking us.
My pleasure.
See us
Welcome
here
to our San Francisco office.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's designed to be able to take a lot of meetings here, and it's very much about just us working here, and companies we're incubating are working out of here. So it's a very collaborative space.
Wow.
We love it being here. Like,
Yeah.
you know, you can see the sunlight. It's gorgeous. So.
Yeah, it is. It's great. So how many partners are in General Catalyst that are investment partners?
The firm has about 10 partners,
Yeah.
and half of us are here in Silicon Valley. Even though we have an office in San Francisco and Palo Alto, it's really one team that works out of wherever we need to be to meet the entrepreneurs. We have an office in Cambridge, which is where the firm started, and then we also have an office in New York. And so there's another 5 partners that cover Cambridge and New York.
Yeah. You're normally based in Palo Alto, or you just come up and down?
I'm probably here 3 days a week and
really?
2 days in Palo Alto. And then there's my partner Steve Harrod. He's probably there 4 days a week and comes up here 1 day a week because he does mostly infrastructure. And so it depends on people's interest areas.
Yeah. And I know you've backed several unicorn companies. Can you sort of name check some of your big successes that you've?
Yeah, I mean, our investments include Stripe, Snap, Airbnb, Kayak, Warby Parker, Jet.com, which was recently acquired.
Yeah.
We're early stage investors in almost all of these companies. In fact, Kayak was started in our offices, and I think Airbnb was a Series C, and that's just about as late as we've gone in these companies.
Yeah, and your investment theme would be?
We do a little bit of everything. Half of our investments are in consumer, half are enterprise. We have, good centers of gravity in e-commerce and consumer brands, in business applications, business software. A lot of work in media, increasingly in healthcare. And I would say, we probably do 70% of the work is early stage, which is incubating Series A or Series B, and then we do some later stage investing as well.
Yeah. You have a theme about economies on scale. Can you describe what that means?
Yeah, I think if you observe the trend that 20th century was all about, build bigger schools, bigger banks, bigger hospitals, bigger everything so that you can provide this egalitarian access to everybody. 21st century is about personalized education, personalized medicine, personalized finance, and a lot of that is being done because of these technology platforms that have been created, and couple that with data and AI. And we think that's the reason companies that are started that way are succeeding and scaling as fast, Airbnb being an example of that in our portfolio, is because of what I think is this economies of unscale. It's the advantage that little companies have in being able to serve customers better and scale fast by renting scale that these platforms like AWS and Flextronics and others are able to provide. And we think that we're 10 years into a 30-year transformation of the economy, and that has been a guiding principle behind my investing over the last few years.
And that's led to manufacturing.
All of it, exactly. The entire vertical integration stack, when you think about any business. If you look at P&G, it wins because it's got scale and it's vertically integrated. It manufactures, it's got its own distribution, et cetera, et cetera. It's got its own mass market branding capability. But we're investors in an honest company, and that can become a very large company really fast because it outsources manufacturing and it can acquire customers online and through other avenues. And that's how that got its start. Right? And because the customers love the product and you can find the exact customers that want your product, you can scale very, very quickly by renting this capacity.
Now, part of the thesis that you mentioned there was Individualized Education. And you and I actually serve on a board together at Khan Academy.
That's right.
But you also, I think, are investor in Class Dojo.
Yeah. My thesis around K through 12 education, which is very hard as an investment area, by the way, really there are two fundamental problems to solve. One is change the pedagogy so folks can learn at their own pace and in their own interest areas.
Yeah.
And the second is use technology to transform the role of the teacher in the classroom.
Yeah.
And when I look around and say, well, who are the entrepreneurs working on that, for profit or not for profit, that I think can systemically create that change? It's really Sal doing the, blended learning, flipped classroom, sort of change in pedagogy that you and I are obviously doing a lot of work on.
Yeah.
And then also then Class Dojo, which is trying to create this communication platform between parents and teachers in the context of the students, and rethinking what that interaction and social and emotional learning is going to look like.
Yeah.
So I thought, to the extent that I want to have an impact in that area, which I deeply care about, it's what got you and I to where we are. It's sort of natural resonance with it. Those are the two things I chose to work on.
Yeah, that's interesting. Talk a little bit about the investment activity of your firm and even the kinds of things that you look at individually. When do you get in? What stage? How far should a company be along before you look at it?
We are at this point multi-stage. As I mean, we've got around the corner. We've got a team that's building a new company that we're developing, and we've also invested in companies that are much later stage. So stage to some extent.
Totally pre-revenue company.
This is an idea we had, and we put a team together.
Yeah.
So Kayak was similarly, for example. So I think stage doesn't matter. It's all driven by, do we just get smitten by a particular founder or founding team, and we just want to work on the problem that they're working on, and who's around, who's got the bandwidth, who's interested. But statistically, if you look back, you would say 70% of, as I said earlier, what we do ends up being very early stage, incubation all the way to Series B. Yeah. And the other 30% is, it could be a company that has never raised capital but has become very large bootstrapped, or it could be a company that's raised venture capital, is growing really fast, and could benefit from growth capital and our expertise, and we'll get involved later. The common thread is great founders.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, that's my lens is very much about folks that have a true sense of purpose around the problem they're doing, and they stumbled upon a happy accident that got them inspired to do what they're doing. So if you look at Sal's story, for example, of what he was doing with his knees, I think every great company has an authentic story like that behind it, I really do look for that.
You've been involved with Sal longer than I've been involved. You actually went to school with him, but at the stage that I sort of got involved, he had some traction, right? He didn't have that much in the way of funding, but he had lots in the way of traction. And that really, is a strong indicator that somebody's really hit on a formula that's working and getting adopted. Is that, is there any levels of traction that people should have, that would make you pay attention?
We will invest in companies pre-launch all the time.
Yeah. Wow.
So that's not an issue. I think it's the focus from an investment assessment perspective goes from the founder and their product insight to metrics and traction, and depending upon the sort of stage that the company's at. Mm-hmm. But we will bet on great founders all day long before they've actually gone into market. Mm-hmm. That's frankly what I spend all my time looking for.
And then the check sizes that you write?
Typical Series A check is probably 5 to 10 million. Yeah. We've written checks as large as 100 million. Yeah. The sweet spot would be, 5 to 20 million.
Yeah, and the company at that stage would not even have to have any revenues at that stage.
Done that many times.
Yeah, wow, that's pretty cool. That's not that many VCs that actually do that. Number of checks that you would write a year of that type, or number of new companies that you'd be funding? We
probably do 20 to 25 investments a year across the 10 partners. So it's pretty concentrated work. I mean, we don't sprinkle into too many projects. I think over the years, what we've found is where we concentrate our capital and our time is really where magic happens. I think if we're just sort of buying options, that's not interesting. And then frankly, it's not the right thing to do by the founders either. We should get involved where we're truly excited and we want to spend a lot of time.
Go in deeply.
Absolutely.
Yeah. How do the investments find you? How do portfolio startups reach out to you guys, and how do you find them?
It's many different ways. Our portfolio founders refer a lot. I would probably say the ones that we end up doing with the greatest frequency end up being founders referring other founders. A lot of folks reach out directly over the transom, LinkedIn, and the web. And a lot of times we are thinking through spaces and we reach out to the founders saying, hey, we like the space, we know what you're doing, let's have a conversation about where you're trying to take the business, see if we can be helpful. So it's a little bit of, it's a stew in that regard.
Cool.
Yeah.
So walk around, show me a little bit more of the
Sure.
space.
This is our big
go ahead.
boardroom. This is where we occasionally video in with our other offices or have entrepreneurs come and present. Our team, when we're all here, we sit here, we enjoy the sunlight, and as you see, there's no sort of assigned seating. We want to operate like it's a virtual office.
Yeah.
This is a table I really enjoy because we do lots of thematic dinners here around topics. For example, bringing together a bunch of pharma execs and software execs to discuss Moore's Law, accelerating the drug discovery process. It's an area we're trying to understand better, and we think that those kinds of convenings lead to identifying new ideas and putting people together that are interdisciplinary, and that leads to sort of lots of new company creation. Which is
And
quite
you would do
interesting.
that kind of thing with quarterly or something with different
Probably
sectors?
monthly.
Monthly, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, later today we have a bunch of folks coming here that are thinking about building businesses in the cryptocurrency realm, which is an area we're obviously trying to understand deeply as well. So it's a fair amount of frequency. And then we have some incubation space, as you can see in the back, past the kitchen, and that's where we'll have founders and often small teams of that are founding new companies sort of sitting in our office and getting things off the ground.
Yeah. So how did you get in the world of VC? What got you started?
Oh boy. So I left grad school to start a company. I did that for about 4 years. And we had a small exit. This was in 2001. And then I actually joined General Catalyst 15 years ago as an entrepreneur in residence.
Over in Cambridge?
In Cambridge.
Yeah.
And the idea was to start another business. I never thought I would be doing investing. And that's the general sort of ethos of the firm. Like a lot of people come here to get new companies off the ground because it's a creative place. We love synthesizing ideas and people and turn them into companies. And because that was my roots, it was just great resonance to that platform.
I also know Larry Bond because he worked with NetGenesis, which is a company that I was also a seed investor in, and he became CEO as it became a public company.
That's right.
Actually. And he's also a partner there. So do you have...
Absolutely. Larry and I joined actually the same month.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, like, is that sort of operator? Is that common? That where
we have
people
a mix. We have a mix. Larry's run great software companies. We have a partner here, Trevor, who's invested for the last 12 years. He used to be at Bessemer before. Steve Hurd was the CTO of VMware for 12 years. So I think it's great to just have a mix of.
Yeah.
We have a team member who was a journalist before. The more diverse thinking we have, the more creative the place, in my opinion. So we've been very deliberate about just trying to assimilate a diverse points of views around the table.
Is there any overall raison d'etre for why you guys do what you do? What is the thing you're trying to accomplish in the world by funding these companies?
Yeah, look, we do believe in doing well by doing good, and that shows up in much of what we invest in. We look for companies with a true purpose and think about the societal impact. And then, if you look at our investors for the last 15 years, a lot of them have been foundations and endowments. It's very much, anytime we've had a great exit, almost inevitably one of them sends us this amazing note of how many scholarships got created or how much research got funded in an interesting area, and that just feels good. And so I think helping entrepreneurs build companies that have a positive impact, and then at the same time being stewards of capital that when we help grow it also does positive things in the world is something that does drive us.
Any sectors that you're particularly interested in right now?
Right now, a lot of my interest is in healthcare and understanding crypto. That is where I'm spending most of my time. I'm actually teaching a course this quarter at Stanford on AI and thinking about the responsible ways of applying it towards society and getting the emerging engineering talent to start to think about this. And then I do think cryptocurrency is this interesting tool that enables decentralization in a very interesting way to rethink much of the platform creation over the last decade, and it further levels the playing field, something I care deeply about in technology innovation. So we're very keen to understand what role we should play there as well.
Yeah. One last question. Any words of advice for a beginning entrepreneur in terms of how to best work with a VC, or reach out to a VC?
Well, I think in terms of reaching out, referral matters. Get to the folks that are close to the firm, because it's a great way for us to filter in a world where there's a pretty big top of the funnel of folks that want to talk to us.
Yeah.
I think my biggest advice would be don't force company creation. Find yourself in a happy accident, or find a person who has and team up with them to go solve a problem that truly got identified, because I think it's a very creative process. I don't believe that you can just, with great frequency sit in the room and just manufacture a startup. It doesn't work that well.
Yeah.
So that'd be my one advice.
Yeah, great. Hey, excellent. Thank you, Hemant, for
thanks for coming over.
sharing the advice.
Yeah, good to see you.
It's good to see you again. I think that's it. I think we got a wrap.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Cool. You bet.
If you found this interview interesting, you may want to subscribe. So hit the subscribe button. Hit the subscribe button.
I know I will.
I will. And hit the like. If you like it, share it.